Oh, it is, yeah. What the fuck is that? Flagship! What the fuck is that? Hey everyone, Monarch here, and what a surprise. Here I am, once again, late to the party when it comes to talking about the newest Monster Hunter Wilds trailer. In all fairness though, this is for a good reason. So, I was planning on making this a scripted video. I had a couple of ideas floating around my head the day the trailer came out. One of them was on a particular person and a thread of tweets that the person made. For the sake of that person, I will not be disclosing their name or who they are, since the posts are now deleted, clarified in a video later, but ultimately I decided not to. It was originally going to be a response kind of video to their comments. Then I decided that I wanted to try and make the idea that the tweets were talking about into an overall discussion video about controversy in the monster community, about the monster designs, all that and more, but then ultimately felt that maybe I don't need to do this as a scripted video, and after consulting a friend, I decided to just say fuck it and make this an unscripted video. You know, give the trailer some time, some breathing room to stay in the minds of everybody, you know, let the hype cool down a little bit. That way I can be more, maybe not critical, but like I can look at it more objectively or like from a third person point of view, less so in the moment of the Summer Games Fest, and, you know, talk about the trailer, some of my thoughts on the direction of the trailers, and of course controversy, monster designs, all that. So that's what this video is here for. If you're expecting a video like the first Monster Wilds trailer, then I am sorry to disappoint, but I don't really think I'm a kind of newscasting person like other channels. I cannot for the life of me stay updated with every single bit of news that comes out, having to be on top of everything, and then having to make a new video on every bit of information that comes out. So, nah. I just decided to do that for the first trailer because it was the first big trailer, the big showcase of the game, and, you know, to broaden my horizons and see what I could do. So, if you are all up for hearing a guy ramble about a Wilds trailer for 20 or so minutes about random things, then you've come to the right place. So, yeah, let's just see whatever I come up with to ramble about. So overall, I guess, impressions about the trailer, especially in comparison to the first trailer, immediately, I'm gonna have to say that I am happy about the direction these trailers are taking, but I can understand why people are upset, and more importantly, I think that the second trailer is kind of an outlier when it comes to Monster Hunter trailers. Because usually, the first trailer in Monster Hunter is all about showcasing the ideas that are going through the game, what the core themes and new mechanics are of the game. For Monster Hunter 4, that was mounting. With Generations, it was the styles. With World, it was showcasing the living, breathing ecosystem and the monster interactions with the turf wars. And so naturally, Wild showcased its main focus with the environment, with the monsters, the herds, and how all of this interacts with one another. It also showcased a little bit of the Sacred, and what we can do on top of it, with the Slinger, with grabbing ammo, with calling it to pick us up. And then of course there is the focus mode, which we got a brief showcase of what that is like for Greatsword at least. So naturally, a lot of people I know were expecting the second trailer to be more. They were expecting it to go into further depth, to get a closer look at the other weapons, their focus modes, what they would do, some of the monster versus hunter interactions, all of that and more. Instead, what we got for the second trailer was yet another cinematic-esque trailer, picking up right from the first trailer where we left off with Nada and everybody on the ship, finding the pack of Balahara off in the distance now. We find out what that mystery Leviathan that people were speculating about, and got completely right, by the way. I am surprised that people were able to get this accurate to what the end product monster would be. but then the rest of the trailer is basically dedicated to just the Balahara. It's all about showing the hunter rescuing this other person who's being chased by a herd of Balahara, us trying to shake off the Balahara and escape them, you know, being trapped into their underground lair and having to fight them. It's very Balahara focused. It's focused on this one new monster, and then there's the tease at the end with the new flagship Apex of the Windward Plains, who from this point onwards, if you couldn't tell by that meme intro, I am calling Misaka, like Misaka from CERN Scientific Railgun. I mean, it is a literal railgun wyvern. But that's basically it. It's just focused on the Balahara, on the cinematics, the cutscene into gameplay integration, and teases about Misaka. There's a moment in the trailer where it looks like the village is going to get invaded by Doshiguma, which, if that does happen in the story, in the game, that will actually be very cool, because we have rarely had circumstances in a monster story before where the monsters have invaded the town and we have to fight them off. The best, I guess, we get is with Monster 4 Ultimates, with Dundorma, with the quests that take place there, and also Rise with the rampages, but nothing quite like on this level. In fact, the best comparison I can think of with this is Wild Hearts, and how in the story there was a mandatory encounter with the Amaterasu in the village. I'm not gonna say it was a great encounter, because it is very obvious that the arena is kind of not built for Amaterasu, considering the size of her attacks and the monster as a whole. But it was a neat idea for a story encounter taking place within the village like that. So we could very well see that play out in the story as well. We're having to fight Vidoshiguma in the village or some part of it. Which, hey, that's also confirmation that we have a village, at least in the Windward Plains. We don't know what it looks like, but we have confirmation. And I mean, again, I'm happy. I like this direction, because I know, and I've talked with friends about this, that video game trailers, especially monster trailers like Pokemon, have a really bad tendency as of recently to showcase basically the entire roster. Like, by the end of the trailer life cycle, when the game is coming out, there's not really any monsters that are left a secret. Of course, final bosses like Geistbegorm and Xeno'jiiva were not showcased. Thunder Serpent Narwa wasn't seen in any of the Rise trailers, when Serpent Ibushi was. Hell, even Basil wasn't shown off in any of World's trailers. It was through leaks of first gameplay accounts that he started to appear on the internet. But even still, that's like 1 or 2 monsters, excluding DLC, that are not shown in the game or are teased in trailers. And it still doesn't ruin the interactions with these monsters, like Odogaron and all these other monsters, or Nergigante, are still worthwhile for me personally in terms of a hunt, but I know for other people and friends that they would really like for the trailers to take a step back, to have some mystery left going into the game of, oh shit, this is a new monster we haven't seen before in these trailers. This is something I was not expecting. Once again, something that Wild Hearts did really well, because there were quite a few monsters that were not shown in any of the trailers for Wild Hearts. There were a ton I was not expecting to see, and so was completely blown away by in the actual gameplay. So I am actually happy about the slower showcase of monsters. I think it's really neat how we're getting trailers focused on 1 or 2 monsters at a time in each trailer, you know, showcasing how they interact with their herds, with the environment, how they're specifically built for their part of the environment, like how Chotacabra is built for like indoor cave areas, so you notice that he's in a more enclosed area where we're fighting him. Doshiguma is like a field or herd monster, so it's in some of the grassier parts of the Windward Plains, while Balahara is very much a sand dweller. It is a worm that digs in and out of the sand, that has this kind of specialized mouth and skin to burrow through the sand with efficiency, and even has the little eye or mouth developments like, I think it's oysters, or what clams have, essentially, with like the multiple eyes on the mouth ridges, or even how some people have pointed out that the mouth ridges look like one of those kinds of free prawn drills, essentially. So, it's good. I like how it's focusing on these monsters and, really digging down into how they're specialized for the environments with the herds and these systems. But I understand why people are upset, because usually by this point, especially in the second trailer, would be given a lot more. There would be at least like free monsters. There would be a bigger emphasis on the weapon to monster interactions, what the hunter can do. A lot of people are expecting focus mode to be seen more, but instead we're shown more cinematics, and again, focused especially hard on the Balahara, which that's all fair. I'm not going to say that you are all ignorant or that it is a bad complaint. I think it is a valid complaint, because it's definitely a different marketing strategy from what previous monster trailers or games have done. I think for me personally, the only time I've been disappointed in a Monster Hunter trailer release schedule is actually Sunbreak. But that was mainly a symptom of post-Rise. I was feeling down about the franchise, and then Sunbreak got announced while I was working on the review, and just, I'm gonna be blunt, the first few teases of the game weren't really that good. It's like, oh boy, Sunbreak reveal, and then what's the next trailer that comes out? It's a Shogun Ceanataur tease. Like, I don't know, those have been the only times I've been negative about a monster trailer, or like the way they marketed it. Even if I wasn't totally hooked onto Sunbreak with the next big trailer, it was still like a step up. But yeah, I think it's valid for people to be concerned and to be expecting other things. I think what they're showing with the monsters, with the Balaharas, the Doshiguma, the Chotacabra, is more than making up for it. So, like, I think it says a lot when, even with this little shown about the game, that we're still getting a ton of art and memes being made about Doshiguma, Balahara, or even the railgun monster, Misaka. Like, there is still a lot of good material being made about these creatures. And now, even the characters, like, good God, people are going wild over Gemma, both in the safe for work and not safe for work categories, which is completely fine. And I think that it just goes to show that even with this different of a marketing strategy, with the smaller focus on these monsters and the cinematic approach, that there is still a lot of hype for this game being generated by a good, decent chunk of the player base. Now, of course, with a new generation, with these new trailers, there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of controversy being made in the community right now about the direction of Wilds and the mechanics being introduced, how it will shape the franchise going forward, if this is the right direction to take with the focus on ecology and the herd system, or the supposed emphasis of what we've seen with trying to split up monsters from their herds to better fight them, and just, the typical divide you'd expect by this point of ecology versus gameplay, of people wanting to see more of the weapon interactions, the monster versus hunter, all that and more. And I'm just... on the one hand, I'm actually kind of feeling nostalgic, not gonna lie. Like, this has happened every single time a new game is being announced, a new generation of monster is being made. And I don't know, at this point, it's a little bit nostalgic for me, because I'm used to it by this point. It can be considered like a rite of passage for a lot of people, especially the fifth leaders. Like, this is all of your guys' first time dealing with a generational shift. Like, you thought it could be bad in between the generation with World and Rise. Oh boy, you haven't seen shit. And it's a rite of passage for a lot of people. I know people like KJ have conflicted thoughts, or like that they're like, wow, this is incredibly different from what we see or what I know of the fifth generation and the games I got introduced to. And then of course you have all the people on the side who are looking in on Wilds as their potential first monster game and trying to think about how they feel or if anything interests them. And that's why it feels kind of nostalgic for me, because it's like, this is just a part of the franchise. This is a rite of passage for a player base, for the fifth leaders, and for the new people getting into Monster Hunter. On the other hand, yes, there are parts of it that get very tiring for me, especially with the arguments about if Monster Hunter has lost its soul or whatever, that this isn't Monster Hunter anymore, that it's going in a different direction, this isn't the direction it should take, and all that shit. I just think that while talking about the essence of a franchise can be a very interesting topic, it's generally a topic or conversation that goes absolutely fucking nowhere because nobody has a goddamn clue of what Monster or the franchise actually is. Because guess what? It all differs based on perspective. Which, boy oh boy, here you are seeing me talking about this once again from the Elder Dragon comment video about the split between ecology versus gameplay and how our experiences or introductions into Monster, what we value most, affect our perspective on what Monster means. Are you a gameplay-centric person, or are you ecology? Are you one who wants to figure out more of the lore, or are you focused on like the monster fights? You know, and then all the different subcategories and groups that are made up of that, of like the different generations, the fleets, and what you like, or if you're a fan of the spin-off games, of Frontier, and just, it's a general shit show of trying to debate of what the soul is in Monster, and I think it's a fruitless point, especially when every fucking game, every generation, it is literally changing. If the devs themselves are constantly changing the format of Monster Hunter, then how can we be so sure of what the soul of Monster Hunter even is? And besides the shifting perspective or like the fan base feedback, there's also, like I was saying there, or in terms of each generation, that they're all different. Every Monster game is quite literally different. Like, you cannot look at me in the face and say that, oh yes, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is the last good classic Monster game of that original Monster style, even though it is drastically different to what came before it with Free Ultimate, or how Free Ultimate is drastically different to Freedom Unite, and vice versa with Freedom Unite being drastically different to Monster Hunter 1. Like, every single game is so incredibly different, and trying to argue of like what the last game that harnessed that true classic Monster Hunter experience for these games are sorely missing out on it's just foolish to me. And then of course you have the absolute weirdos who are like, Monster should go back to the way it was back in the day, and I can understand, you know, wanting mechanics to be brought back or to re-experience certain things. I definitely feel that. I want underwater combat to be brought back, and I know for other people, they want a heavier emphasis on the preparation for hunts. They want a dedicated farm to build up, that you could actually go to and experience like in Freedom Nights, or try. And I get that, I truly get that, but to say that the franchise shouldn't change, that it should stay the same the whole time? That's absurd to me. Like, who would wish that on a franchise, on a game? Because all that leads to is repetition, all that leads to is the franchise getting stale, pumping out the same formula, the same mechanics, the same gameplay loop and experience every single time. That's how you get the complaints of Call of Duty that people have had for the past fucking decade or so. It's good for things to change, and I'm just saying that, like, it's better for a franchise to evolve and adapt, to experiment with these different ideas, see what can be done with the gameplay loop, with the environments, the monsters, than to just stay the same. Do I like every perspective that they experiment with? Fuck no! I do not like Rise and Sunbreak's perspective. I do not like that harsh emphasis on gameplay over everything else and the mechanics they bring in, like Wirebug or Spear Birds. I don't like those. I think that they tarnish the gameplay a little bit, and that through the introduction of various mechanics, they end up backfiring, that they harm the gameplay loop, they harm the gameplay of the weapons, they harm how you go about the hunt, they even harm their own motto or like core focus of the game design. Like, there are definitely mechanics and perspectives and experimentations the developers have done that I am not a fan of. But I can say that as a whole, in terms of the overall perspective of the franchise, it is doing better for all that experimentation, for figuring out what works, what doesn't, what is a potential perspective to work on, all that and more. I guess the point being with all this is that controversy is a funny thing. Like, despite how long it has endured throughout the franchise, happening every single generation, it's not going away anytime soon. And with how large the franchise has gotten nowadays with the influx of players through the 5th generation, it's only become more vocal nowadays with the 6th generation into Wilds. Or who knows what the divide will be like next time with the Ultimate release, or with the portable team game of this generation. Like, it's going to be very interesting looking into the future of Monster Hunter as a franchise, or the fan base. There are a lot of growing pains to do. 5th generation was definitely that growing pain experience, and 6th gen looks to be that way as well. But I'm confident. I am confident that Wilds will be a good game. I'm confident in the direction they're taking with the gameplay, with the focus on the ecosystems and the environment, and how that can affect our hunts. I think that's going to give a lot of diversity and replayability to the hunts. Like, if the ecosystem changes, actively affect the monster's behavior, gives them new moves, new patterns, makes them more aggressive. Or even just the thing of having the herds to deal with and strategizing and having to split them apart from one another. Or I've seen people even speculate that Misaka, the railgun monster, we could perhaps use the environment or ecosystem and other monsters to our advantage because it's a lightning-based monster in the very lightning-themed Windward Plains. So if it's storming, or like whenever Misaka is using a lightning attack, perhaps we could use the environment or like the Karatonoffs with the lightning rods on them to protect us from electric blasts. Like, there's a lot of potential with these gameplay elements, and I can just see so much replayability going into these hunts. So many perspectives and little details to find out about these monsters that increase the fun I have, like figuring out new ways to deal with them, new details that make you appreciate them more and more. And I want people to understand, I am a very gameplay heavy person. Like, I like the ecology. I think it adds a lot of personality and detail. You know, it separates Monster Hunter as a franchise from other franchises, but I'm not head over heels over the ecology. I'm not going to hate a monster or obsess over it because of the ecology, or I'm not going to obsess over the ecology and say, oh, this monster is ruined, this game is ruined, gameplay doesn't matter. I think for me, the perspective I have is that I'm gameplay, but I also appreciate the ecology and all these little details as extra ingredients or dressing on the food, essentially, like little spices to vary up the flavor. And ultimately, if you manage those spices and dressings very well, then the food can become even better. That's how I feel with the ecology. Like, if it's properly implemented, if it's done in the correct way or like in an intriguing way, then that just makes the hunts even more engaging. That makes the monsters filled with even more details, and it'll make the gameplay all that more fun. I think the direction with the art style and the monsters are going to be good. I like, again, how each of the 3 monsters who've been shown so far in the Windward Plains are dedicated to a specific part of the Windward Plains, how they're specialized for it. I think that their designs befit the idea of the Forbidden Lands, of it being essentially the Australia of the monster world, of these weird and disgusting creatures, and, you know, also the idea that, just like real life, I think that there is a place for the ugly and disgusting in Monster Hunter. Like, not everything needs to be edgy cool, not everything needs to be cute or adorable, because real life is fucked up, real life is weird, and there's a lot of unknowns and just horrifying looking creatures outside. So I'm sure that, as we've seen with Misaka, we'll be seeing more monster variety. It won't just be ugly monsters like people have been assuming, and we'll definitely be getting more body types and variety. I mean, fuck, already, we've gotten an amphibian, a fanged beast, and a leviathan in the first 2 trailers of this game. And then Misaka is potentially what looks to be a flying wyvern, like a Sergio skeleton, maybe elder dragon. I'm leaning towards flying wyvern, though. So I only have hope that the monster diversity in the actual game, in future trailers, is gonna be even better, that we're gonna see even more, and I'm hyped for that. So, like, yeah, I don't know, I think those are about all the thoughts I have on Monster Wilds with the trailer approach, the controversies in the community, and my perspective on Wilds and what I think it will be like. I'm very much looking forward to it, and with Gamescom happening in August, with live gameplay showcases and demos happening there and a new trailer, I think that Wilds is only going to go up. I am very much excited and happy about Monster Wilds. I like the minimal secrecy approach it's having with its trailers, with keeping things down on the low, and if it continues going forward with that, I know people will be disappointed, but I'll be happy knowing that there's at least a few mysteries going into the full game that I won't know about. I'm happy, but this game has fucking crossplay. Oh my god, how did I not mention that before? We got announced that it has crossplay. Granted, not cross-save, but like, still, crossplay. This is what everybody has been fucking asking for since Monster became mainstream, since it went worldwide with World and Rise. Like, this is what we've been asking for. All these different console players and PC players finally getting the chance to play as one. Holy shit, thank God! Ugh. I'm just so happy knowing I'll be able to play with all my friends who are going to be on PC, that I won't just have to buy another copy of Monster on the PC, or I just won't be able to play with them at all. I think that's fantastic. Crossplay alone shoots the hype of Wilds all the way up into like the stratosphere. Like, I think already this has the possibility of being one of the best Monster games personally for me, just because of that fact. And again, I can understand people's restraints. I can understand people having worries and cautions about the franchise, about Wilds. That is completely fine, because it's the new generation, it's a new game. And I think expressing those worries, expressing those complaints, and talking about Wilds and the direction it's going in with these trailers is good. This is a good thing. You should talk about it. And, you know, you are allowed to express those opinions. I just think that some of the discourse with the controversy and the talks about, oh, this isn't Monster anymore, just to be fucking stupid, honestly. That's the kind of arguments and controversies I do not care about at all. But if you want to express your opinions about Wilds, about the trailers and all that and more in the comments, go right ahead. Feel free to agree or disagree with me, and I look forward to see what people have to say in the comments below in response to what I have to say or to Wilds as a whole. As for me though, I am going to wrap this video up right here. Thank you everybody for tuning into this video and for the support you've been giving to the channel as of recently. I cannot thank you guys enough. It is ridiculous to me that all 3 of the most recent videos I have been working on and released in terms of big projects has worked out. Like, all of them have reached 1,000 views, and right now the channel is sitting at 3,344 subscribers, which is an insane jump of plus 40 in the last 28 days. That is incredible. And I cannot thank you guys enough, and I hope you guys continue to support the channel in whatever way you wish, you know, liking, subscribing, commenting, you know, giving your thoughts and support. Share the video across to your friends or servers, and if you are interested in keeping up to date with whatever I'm doing, if you want to hear my opinions or talk about other things, follow me on my Twitter and Bluesky. And if you want to join a community of other people, talk about anime, kaiju, fighting games, Monster, all that and more, then feel free to join the Discord, which is in the description below at the very bottom, along with all my other social media links. But yeah, that's about it for the video. I have been the Monarch of Dragons, and I hope you all have a fantastic day / night wherever you live. Peace and coolest vaults.